Welcome to the Sea Breeze Scent, episode number 2, titled Jasmine Sambac.
And Jasmine Sambac. It's definitely a flower that deserves this kind of deep dive. Today, our mission really is to go beyond just, smelling it. We want to explore Jasmine Sambac as this huge cultural icon, a major industrial player, and honestly a source of real artistic inspiration. We're bringing together what the sources tell us to get the full picture.
Yeah, and I think the most fascinating way into this is that central contradiction, that paradox. You have this flower that's just fundamental to life in South India. It's everywhere. Ancient rituals, mythology, symbols of love, purity, seduction for literally thousands of years.
Absolutely central.
But then you look at Western perfumery history and its big moment, its mainstream arrival. It's so recent, like the last 30 years, maybe even a bit less.
It's a striking case of cultural lag, isn't it? How could something so important, so deeply revered for so long, be considered almost new to the European perfume world?
Especially since its scent isn't exactly subtle.
No, not at all. It really announces itself. When our sources describe it, they point to this really specific complexity. It's got fruitiness, yes, but also this vivid green character. Think cut grass. And then these hints, these whispers of orange blossom.
Right, but layered underneath that is the unmistakable, almost heady narcotic part. That rich, heavy, animalic quality that gives it such presence, such sillage. It's a lot for a perfumer to handle, I imagine.
Exactly. That blend of bright freshness on top and deep sensual indulgence underneath, that's what makes Sambac unique. And that's ultimately what made the West sit up and take notice, realizing what they've been missing.
Okay, let's dig into the basics first, from the ground up. Before it ends up as that pricey absolute, what is Jasmine Sambac when it's just growing?
Botanically speaking, it's in the Oliaceae family. That's the olive family, interestingly enough. Common names, you hear Arabian jasmine, true jasmine.
I saw foul jasmine mentioned too. That seems harsh.
It does. Probably due to how incredibly powerful the scent can be, almost overwhelming in close quarters, maybe.
Yeah.
But its name journey is fascinating too. Sambac itself tells a story.
Oh yeah, tell us about the etymology.
Well, the root Sambac traces back to Sanskrit, the word champaka, which means heady perfume. It connects it to another famously fragrant flower, the champak, Magnolia champaka.
Ah, okay.
And jasmine itself likely comes from the Persian word for fragrance. So you see, from Sanskrit to Persian, its identity has always been tied to this idea of intense, captivating scent.
And physically, what are the farmers in places like Tamil Nadu actually looking after?
It's naturally a climbing evergreen shrub. But for cultivation, to make harvesting easier and boost flowering, they trim it back every year. So it ends up as this manageable bush, maybe 1 to 1.2 meters tall.
Right.
And it produces these clusters of flowers. They're called cymes. Each cyme has maybe 3 to 12 small, incredibly scented white flowers. And crucially, they mostly bloom during the hot season. That dictates everything for the harvest.
Okay, let's get to the part perfumers really care about, the chemistry. What molecules create that intricate scent, the fruity, the animalic, the green?
Right, so several key players. You absolutely have to start with indole. That's the big one for the heavy, animalic, sometimes almost narcotic aspect.
That's the one that can smell tricky, if not handled right.
Exactly. Concentrated indole can smell quite fecal, almost like stables. But in the flower, and in a well-balanced absolute, it provides that incredible depth, that sensuality. It gives the fragrance its power, its sort of enveloping quality.
It's a real balancing act for the perfumer then, using indole for its effect, not its literal smell.
Precisely. It makes the lighter notes shine and anchors the whole thing. Then you have other major components like benzyl acetate, benzyl alcohol, linalool. These contribute the general sweetness and floral character.
Okay.
But a key differentiator for Sambac, especially compared to grandiflorum, is methylantranilate.
And why is that one so important for Sambac?
Methylantranilate is what gives Sambac that unmistakable sweet, kind of rounded, distinctly fruity note. It often reminds people of orange blossom. That's a really crucial difference. Grandiflorum often leans more creamy, maybe slightly mushroomy white floral. Sambac has that sunnier, almost gourmand lift because of methylantranilate.
And those specific green notes we mentioned?
Yes. Also really high-impact components. You've got cis-3-hexanol and its derivatives like cis-3-hexanyl benzoate. These are the molecules behind that fresh, sharp, really powerful green feeling. Our sources even say they can smell like freshly cut grass or sometimes even banana peels in the absolute.
Wow, banana peels.
It's this whole chemical package that gives the flower such amazing olfactory range. It can hint at lily of the valley and orange blossom, all within its own scent profile.
So the science is fascinating, but to really get sambac, we have to go back, way back, to its ancient roots in India, where it's been woven into life since the, quote, mists of time.
Its role there is just immense. It wasn't just a pretty flower, it was part of the fabric of society. You see it mentioned in huge ancient texts like the Mahabharata, even the Kama Sutra.
Really, the Kama Sutra.
Yes. And if you go back even further, to Tamil Sangam literature, we're talking 300 BCE to 300 CE poets were already writing about its perfume mixing with sandalwood and saffron. It's deeply embedded.
So it's linked to love, devotion, just everyday life. It shows up at all the big moments, happy and sad, which makes that lag in Western adoption even stranger, doesn't it? Europe gets the plant in the 17th century, classifies it by 1789, but ignores it for serious perfume making until, what, the late 1980s?
It's a perfect storm of cultural lag and, frankly, industrial preference. For ages, the gold standard for jasmine absolute was Jasminum grandiflorum, the kind grown in Grasse or Egypt or Morocco. When sambac came along, Western perfumers were skeptical.
What were their main doubts? Why the hesitation?
Well, the perception was that sambac didn't have the same vigor, maybe the same animal dimension as the grandiflorum they were used to. It was seen as maybe too sweet, a bit light, having this jammy, even gourmand feel.
Gourmand wasn't really the vibe back then.
Not so much in high-end perfumery in the mid-20th century, which often valued really complex, deep, sometimes heavily animalic structures. That fruitier gourmand aspect might have felt less sophisticated, less powerful maybe?
So what changed? How did this lesser jasmine suddenly become the star?
A few things aligned. For one, its price point was initially lower than grandiflorum absolute, which definitely helped open some doors. But more importantly, I think, perfumers started realizing that sambac's specific chemical signature, that orange blossom hint from the methyl anthranilate, plus those bright green notes, offered something new. A brighter, sunnier feeling that the market, especially in the 1990s, was starting to crave.
And once it caught on, its use just exploded.
Exploded is the word. The sources say sambac consumption tripled after 1994, then quadrupled again in the next 5 years. It's directly linked to its use in huge, iconic perfumes launching around then.
Like which ones?
Think about the classics from that time. Hermes 24, Soberg in 95, Givenchy's Organza in 96, and maybe most definingly, Dior's Hypnotic Poison in 1998. These fragrances use sambac to create this new kind of sensuality, warm, white floral, but with that distinct fruity lift. It was a fast, dramatic takeover, really pushing grandiflorum aside as the fashionable jasmine.
Let's bring it back to India for a moment. The flower's cultural weight is even reflected in its many names, isn't it? Just the diversity there.
Oh, absolutely. The sheer number of names is amazing. Chameli, or Mogra in Hindi, Melage in Canada, Malachi in Tamil. Each region has its own term, showing how deeply it's woven into different local cultures. So much so it's the national flower for both the Philippines, where it's Sampaguita, and Indonesia as Melati Putih.
And the main use day-to-day isn't for perfume extraction, right? It's ceremonial.
Overwhelmingly so. More than 90% of the total harvest goes into rituals and adornments, especially in the southern states like Tamil Nadu. It's the essential material for those beautiful, intricate woven garlands called male, for sacred prayer necklaces, and for the gajra, those gorgeous decorations women wear in their hair.
Talk a bit more about the symbolism, especially in weddings and worship. The sources really emphasize its role there.
In weddings, it's incredibly symbolic. The pure white color signifies respect, purity, and promise. You mentioned the Philippines. Sampaguita literally means, I promise you.
Wow.
So they use it lavishly. They might create jasmine carpets for the couple to walk on. The bride's hair is adorned with it. The main wedding platform, the pujathali, is decorated. It's also in the garlands exchanged by the bride and groom, sealing their union.
And beyond weddings, in regular devotion.
It's a key offering to Hindu gods and goddesses. It's said to be particularly favored by Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom. It's even called Sarasakti there, meaning relating to knowledge.
Interesting link to knowledge.
It is. The flower represents the world of senses, the earthly realm, making it a powerful link between the divine and the everyday in worship. And we can't forget attars, those traditional oil-based perfumes. In places like Kannauj, they infuse jasmine into sandalwood oil to make rumogra. This specific attar is sometimes used in puja rituals for purification.
Which ties into its traditional medicinal uses too. The sources call it a panacea in Ayurveda.
Yes, that holistic view is ancient. In Ayurveda, it's not just pretty, it's seen as an all-around remedy. used as a sedative and specifically mentioned for relieving headaches. So you have this flower that's sacred, ceremonial, medicinal, and decorative. It's the foundation of his value. Maybe that intense life force is why the sources say a single fresh Madurai flower can hold its scent for up to 36 hours.
Incredible. Okay, this brings us squarely to the industry itself, the cultivation in Tamil Nadu. We need to understand the ground where this white gold, as they call it, comes from. Over 90% of the world's perfumery jasmine originates in southern India.
That's right. Geographically, Tamil Nadu is the heartland, along with parts of Karnataka and Kerala. And the city of Madurai is really the capital. The conditions there are just perfect, not just good, but uniquely suited. You've got that tropical climate, really hot summers, mild winters.
But it's the soil, right, that seems to be the real secret sauce.
Absolutely. Madurai is near the Vaigai River, and the soil is this specific mix, rich, red, sandy, light. This combination of red and black soils is credited with giving the flowers their amazing staying power, that fragrance longevity of up to 36 hours post-picking.
Wow.
The very best plots are actually north of Madurai, around villages like Nelakottai and Dindigul. And the importance of this specific microregion, the Madurai Mali, was officially recognized in 2013 when it got the Protected Geographical Indication PGI label.
Let's linger on that PGI for a second. For people interested in the industry, why is that label such a big deal?
The PGI is basically a stamp of authenticity and quality. It legally certifies that the jasmine sold as Madurai Mali gets its unique characteristics, that scent, that longevity from that specific place. It means it's grown and harvested using traditional methods in that unique climate and soil. It protects its value and reputation against cheaper imitations from elsewhere.
Right. Crucial protection. Now, the farming itself, this isn't like planting corn every year. It's a long game for these farmers.
It's a serious long-term commitment. These jasmine plants can live and produce for 15, even 20 years. They typically plant the seedlings in September or October. And to get that spectacular flowering, they trim the plants 3 times a year. There's a key trim just before the rainy season to really encourage bud formation.
And the flowering season is long.
Very long. It runs pretty much from February all the way to November. But the absolute peak, the high season with the most flowers, is April through June.
The yield numbers are pretty staggering when you think about the labor involved.
They really are. One mature plant might yield around 7,500 flowers a year. That sounds like a lot, but it only weighs about 1.5 kilograms.
Only 1.5 kilos per plant per year.
Exactly. And consider this. One picker harvests only about 250 grams of flowers per hour. It paints a picture of incredibly intense, daily, manual labor.
And the timing is absolutely critical because the flowers are so delicate.
The clock is always ticking. Harvesting has to start super early, 5 or 6 in the morning, and it must finish by midday while the buds are still tight, firm, and white. It's a continuous process day after day for the whole 7-month harvest season. And because the picked flowers only last about 24 hours max, they have to be sold or get to the processing factory within 10 to 12 hours. No delays.
This frantic pace must shape the whole local economy and social structure. Let's talk about that market flow and the people involved.
Yeah, the numbers tell a story. Out of, say, 30,000 tons of jasmine grown in Tamil Nadu in a year, less than 10%, maybe 2,800 tons, actually goes into perfume extraction. The vast majority, over 90%, stays within India for offerings and garlands.
So the daily flower market in Madurai is the real hub. How does it work under that intense time pressure?
It's a race against time. Freshly picked flowers are rushed from the farms, usually through collection points, then quickly to brokers, and finally hit the market floor. When you sell, makes a huge difference in price. The absolute premium flowers, the freshest ones, sell earliest, typically between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m.
Okay.
Anything left over later in the day, flowers that maybe wouldn't survive the journey to markets further away like Dubai or Delhi, they get sent immediately to the local factory to be processed into concrete. They can't afford to waste any.
The source material mentions Uma Kannan, an anthropologist, highlighting how dependent the local economy is on jasmine and also the gender dynamics in the work.
Yes. Madurai's economy really revolves around this flower. The market itself is described as a buyer's market. Prices swing wildly based on demand, especially spiking during big festivals. And the labor is very clearly divided by gender. The really repetitive, painstaking work tying individual flowers onto strands using banana fiber, literally by the meter, that's almost exclusively done by women.
Right.
But the more complex, intricate ornamental garlands, the ones that fetch much higher prices and require more specialized skill, that tends to be dominated by men. It's tough work, but the flower trade provides a vital economic lifeline, particularly for women in rural areas who might have limited education or other opportunities.
Okay, so we have this incredibly precious, fragile flower grown under intense pressure. Now comes the industrial alchemy, turning that fleeting scent into the stable, super concentrated absolute that commands those high prices. Walk us through the two main steps.
Right, the whole goal is to capture the scent and make it last, make it usable. It's a two-stage process. First, you extract a waxy substance called concrete using a solvent. Second, you refine that concrete using alcohol to get the final absolute.
Let's start with step one, getting the concrete using volatile solvent extraction. Why this method for jasmine?
Well, jasmine petals are just too delicate for steam distillation. The heat would destroy the fragile aroma molecules, and many of the key scent components are too heavy, too non-volatile to be captured effectively by steam anyway. So you need a solvent that can gently dissolve the oils and waxes. They use hexane, which is a volatile non-polar solvent.
Okay.
The freshly picked flowers are basically washed in hexane, usually 3 times in succession.
And the scale of this is pretty big.
Oh, yeah. The sources describe using huge extractors, like 4,000-liter capacity tanks. They might load one with around 800 kilograms of fresh jasmine flowers.
800 kilos.
Yep. And then they wash that massive pile of flowers twice, each time with about 800 liters of hexane. It happens pretty quickly at room temperature around 30 degrees C for about 30 minutes per wash cycle.
And what comes out after the hexane wash?
The hexane dissolves the fragrant oils, but also a lot of natural waxes and some pigments from the flowers. Then they evaporate the hexane off carefully so it can be recycled. And what's left behind is this brownish, waxy solid. That's the concrete. It holds the flower's scent, but it's still mixed with all those inert waxes.
And the yield is tiny at this stage, right?
Incredibly tiny. From that 800 kilograms of flowers, you only get about 1 kilogram of concrete. That's a yield of just 0.125%. Really puts the cost into perspective.
Definitely. Okay, step two, refining the concrete into the absolute. This is where you separate the scent from the wax.
Exactly. Now, use a different kind of solvent, a polar one, typically ethyl alcohol. The alcohols are great at dissolving the aromatic molecules, the good stuff, but it doesn't dissolve the waxes very well.
How do they do it?
They take the concrete, say 30 kilograms of it, and mix it vigorously with a lot of alcohol, maybe 200 liters. They might gently warm it up to around 40 degrees C just to help everything dissolve properly.
And then comes a crucial cooling step, chilling it down to 0 degrees C. Why is that so important?
That chilling is key. It forces any waxes that might have slightly dissolved in the warm alcohol to solidify, to precipitate out. If you skipped this step, those waxes would stay suspended and make the final absolute cloudy and less pure.
I see.
So once it's chilled and the waxes is solidified, they filter the cold mixture very carefully. What passes through the filter is the alcohol, now carrying the pure jasmine aroma. That filtrate is what you want.
And the final step is just getting rid of the alcohol.
Right. They use vacuum evaporation. By lowering the pressure significantly, they can boil off the alcohol at a much lower temperature, maybe between 60 degrees C and 80 degrees C. This gentle heat protects the delicate scent molecules that would be damaged by higher temperatures.
And what's left is the absolute.
What's left is the pure jasmine absolute. It's usually a viscous, darkish liquid. The yield here is much better, around 60% from the concrete. So that 30 kilograms of concrete might yield about 20 kilograms of absolute. And this absolute has that characteristic scent profile we discussed, including that distinctive green top note, reminiscent of orange blossom, maybe even those banana skins.
Well, wait, there's potentially one more step for the really high-end stuff. Molecular distillation, creating absolute MD. Why bother with this extra complex process?
This is about ultimate purification and, importantly, fine-tuning the smell. The aim is to remove absolutely every last trace of non-volatile stuff, waxes, pigments, and really emphasize certain notes, usually the fresh, green, lighter aspects, while maybe minimizing some of the heavier, potentially medicinal facets.
And this uses super high vacuum and low temperatures. What's the tech behind that?
Yes, the conditions are extreme. Very high vacuum, around 0.001 millibar, and temperatures ranging from 50 degrees C up to maybe 160 degrees C, but applied very briefly. The high vacuum is the key. It drastically lowers the boiling point of the aromatic molecules.
So they evaporate without getting cooked.
Exactly. Especially the really volatile ones, like those cis-3-hexanol derivatives that give the green freshness. They can be captured without being degraded by heat.
How does it work physically in the distiller?
The absolute is first diluted, often with a neutral vegetable oil, to help it flow. Then, this mixture is spread as an incredibly thin film over rotating blades inside a heated cylinder. In that high vacuum, the volatile scent molecules instantly flash evaporate. They're immediately drawn off and condensed, collected as the super pure absolute MD. The heavier, non-volatile residues just slide down the walls and are removed.
And the result is an even more refined product.
Yes, it's considered the premium grade. The yield is still pretty good, maybe 80% from the standard absolute, so 16 kilograms from 20 kilograms. Perfumers describe this absolute MD as being even more intensely jasmine, cleaner, less medicinal, and really highlighting those bright green and orange blossom notes that are so desirable in modern Sambac perfumes.
Okay, we've gone from the field to the high-tech lab. Let's shift back to the cultural side. How has this flower, this scent, been captured in art and literature over time?
Well, Jasmine Sambac has been a consistent symbol of attraction, sensuality, elegance, beauty across Asia for centuries. You see it in visual art. There's a reference to a 12th century Chinese silk painting by Zhao Chang. It shows Emperor Ming's court ladies wearing jasmine as a fragrant adornment, clearly a mark of status and feminine allure.
And the poetry seems even more personal, more emotional.
Oh, definitely. The references are often deeply moving. You have Rabindranath Tagore fondly remembering the scent of white jasmines from his childhood, showing how powerfully scent connects to memory. Then there's the sheer devotion in the words of Andal, a 9th century Tamil poet. "O twirling jasmine, bright as smiles your blossoms, I surrender." It conveys such intense feeling.
And Sanskrit poetry even links the flower's physical beauty to human beauty.
Yes, the poet Baba Pudi uses it quite directly, suggesting nature took for your teeth white jasmine to describe someone's smile. Another line captures the romance of it all. A soft breeze, sweet perfumed with a fragrant scent, caress her face. It's just cemented in literature as this object of desire, a symbol of romance and seduction.
Beyond perfume and poetry, it also has this interesting life in food and drink.
That's right. People often forget this part. It's used quite a bit in cordials, sometimes to flavor white rice or even savory dishes, but it really shines in sweets.
Like what?
Think sorbets, cakes, and cocktails, too. The sources mention using it in a gin fizz with lychees. The idea there is that its sweet fragrance provides a beautiful counterpoint to the bitterness or tartness of the drink. It's about balance.
And we definitely have to mention its biggest culinary use globally.
Absolutely. In China especially, jasmine is overwhelmingly used to perfume tea. That accounts for something like 80% of China's entire jasmine production. Interestingly, the Chinese jasmine variety used for tea often has a slightly different profile, maybe cleaner, fruitier, almost like raspberry, and generally less animalic than the Indian sambac. Shows how terroir and variety matter.
Okay, let's bring everything together now for the modern perfumer. We know Sambac's unique profile comes from that methyl anthranilate and the green cis-3 hexanol notes. How does that translate into its use on their palette?
That specific signature means it plays a different role than grandiflorum. While they share DNA, Sambac brings that rounder, sweeter, sunnier, fruity floral quality. Because the absolute is so expensive, remember 800 kilos of flowers for maybe just over half a kilo of absolute in the end?
Yeah, incredible cost.
It's rarely the star of the show in huge amounts. Instead, it's often used more strategically. It's crucial for building those transparent, modern floral bouquets, or for recreating the scent of a living flower, providing that essential bright, fruity green lift that makes a perfume feel alive and natural.
Let's revisit those landmark perfumes that really showcase its journey, starting with Guerlain's Samsara.
Right. Samsara from 1989 was really groundbreaking. It wasn't just about a floral note. It paired this smoky, creamy sandalwood with a sambac. Using the jasmine almost like a texture velvety exotic, it hinted at that Eastern spirituality and allure, moving away from the really heavy, sometimes sharp white florals that came before it.
And then the one that really defined the late 90s floral boom, J'adore.
J'adore, 1999, absolutely cemented Sambac's mainstream appeal. It's this big, sophisticated, radiant, fruity floral blend. Sambac is in there with other rich notes like rose, tuberose, ylang-ylang, often boosted by fruity notes like pear or plum. It was that perfect, accessible, ultra-feminine scent that really captured the move towards brightness and away from the dense complexity of the 80s.
Then came something completely different. Mugler's Alien.
Alien 2005 is fascinating. It takes Sambac, but uses it in this incredibly abstract, almost architectural way. It dials up the jasmine's inherent luminosity and sensuality, but slams it against these huge synthetic notes, cashmeran, powerful woods. The effect is bold, otherworldly, intensely radiant. It shows how Sambac, even being so precious, can be used really daringly to create an unforgettable signature, pushing it beyond realism.
And more recently, a perhaps more subtle take, Hermès Cèdre Sambac.
Yes, Christine Nagel's Cèdre Sambac from 2018 feels like a very conscious exploration of the flower's duality. It deliberately sets the voluptuous, heady side of jasmine against the crisp green clarity of cedarwood. It really highlights that freshness you get from advanced extraction like molecular distillation, that cleaner, intensely jasmine-like profile, less weighed down. It feels very modern, honoring the flower's depth without relying on old-school floral heaviness.
Wow, what an incredible journey we've traced. From being revered in ancient texts like the Kama Sutra, growing in the specific red earth of Madurai, through that demanding cultivation and intricate extraction, all the way to defining modern perfumery.
It's really a story of contrasts, isn't it? Jasmine Sambac bridges ancient ritual and cutting-edge sensuality. It demands intense daily manual labor in Indian villages, yet transforms into this abstract, incredibly luxurious liquid prized globally. It underpins local economies while shaping global artistic expression.
So, the final thought we want to leave you, the listener, with is this. Consider the reality that 90% of the jasmine harvest in Madurai fuels a local economy based on women painstakingly tying simple, ephemeral garlands day after day. How does that intense, localized daily reality connect to, and maybe justify, the immense luxury price and global desirability of the final 10%, the absolute that ends up defining some of the world's most iconic and expensive perfumes? It's a flower that truly bridges subsistence and sensation.
A very powerful connection to ponder.
To delve deeper into the intricate world of fragrances, visit sbscent.com. Thank you for listening to my podcast, finishing by see you next episode. Bye.